Hello everyone, hope you're having an amazing day. After everything that exploded in episode 6, the lies, the pressure, the fear that kept creeping into every quiet moment, you'd think Dee would want to run, hide, pretend none of it happened. But Dee does the exact opposite. He wakes up the next morning, and instead of avoiding the wreckage, he looks straight at it and says, "We're going home." Not the fancy kind of home. Not a new apartment with clean walls and zero history. He means the place tied to the oldest memories he has. The land. The small house that still carries the fingerprints of his family's past. Good and bad, joyful and painful, all mixed together like dust in sunlight. Huyen freezes when he says it. Her first instinct is to protect Maya from anything uncertain, from anything that feels temporary. Her eyes flick to Maya, then back to Dee. "Are you sure?" she asks quietly. Dee doesn't answer with big promises. He doesn't try to sound heroic. He just nods. Once. Calm. Grounded. "I'm not asking you to trust words," he says. "Just come see it. Let's build something real, even if it's small." And Maya, sweet, sharp little Maya, tilts her head like she's listening for what adults won't say out loud. Then she walks over and slips her hand into Dee's, like it's the most normal thing in the world. "Can we go now?" she asks. That's when Huyen's throat tightens, because she hears it, not fear in Maya's voice, but curiosity, hope. So they go. The road is familiar to Dee, but he hasn't traveled it in a long time. As the car moves farther from the city noise, the air changes. The trees look taller. The sky looks wider. Even the sunlight feels softer, like it's not in a rush. Huyen watches Dee from the passenger seat. He keeps both hands on the steering wheel, but his grip is loose. Not tense, just steady, like he's bracing for emotion, not danger. Maya sits in the back, hugging a small backpack to her chest, humming a tune she made up herself. Every few minutes she asks, "Are we close?" And Dee answers, "Soon," like the word is a promise he can finally keep. When they arrive, the house is honest. It's not pretty in the shiny way. The paint is faded. The roof sags a little in one corner. The gate creaks like it wants to complain. The yard is overgrown with weeds that clearly haven't heard the word maintenance in months. But the place isn't dead. It's waiting. Dee steps out first, and for a second, he just stands there, looking, breathing, like he's letting the past pass through him without swallowing him whole. Huyen gets out slowly, holding Maya's hand. She scans the yard, the windows, the doorway. "This is," she starts. "I know," Dee says, almost embarrassed. "It's not much." Huyen doesn't answer right away. Then she squeezes Maya's hand and says, "Softer. It's real." Maya pulls them forward like a tiny commander. "Can I see inside?" Dee laughs under his breath, and it's the first light sound we've heard from him in what feels like forever. Inside, the air smells like old wood and closed rooms. Dust hangs in the corners. A spider web stretches across one window like a thin curtain. Huyen instinctively starts wiping a surface with her palm, then stops herself. She looks at Dee as if asking, "Is it okay if I touch this life?" Dee nods, so Huyen rolls up her sleeves. Dee opens windows. Maya runs from room to room, narrating everything like she's on an adventure show. "This is the kitchen," she announces. "This is a scary room, which is just the storage space. This is the best room, which is the one with a slightly bigger window." Dee watches her, and you can see it in his eyes, that mix of disbelief and aching gratitude, like he's afraid the moment might vanish if he breathes too hard. Then Huyen finds an old set of bowls in a cabinet. Not fancy, but clean enough after a rinse. She looks at Dee. "Do we have groceries?" she asks. Day points outside. "In the trunk. I bought simple stuff. Rice, eggs, some vegetables. Nothing special." Huyen nods like she's making a serious decision. "Then we'll cook." So that's what they do. Not a dramatic feast. No romantic candlelight. Just a simple meal made with hands that have been through too much. Day washes vegetables at the old sink, rolling his sleeves up past his elbows. Maya stands beside him like his assistant, holding a carrot as if it's an important mission. Huyen lights the stove after a few tries and laughs when it finally catches. "There," she says, smiling despite herself. "We're not helpless." Dee glances at her. "I never thought you were." And there's a tiny pause right there, because it's not just about cooking. It's about being seen, being believed in, being treated like she isn't broken. They eat sitting on the floor because the table is wobbly and the chairs are missing 2 legs each. Maya calls it a picnic house, and suddenly the bare room feels warmer. Huyen watches Day give Maya the best pieces without thinking. Maya eats happily, cheeks puffed like a chipmunk, talking about how they should plant flowers and maybe get a cat. And Dee just listens, like every silly idea is precious. Then, right when you think the day might stay gentle, a drip lands on the floor. Plink. They all look up. Another drip. Plink. Day exhales, half amused, half annoyed. "Roof," he mutters. Huyen raises an eyebrow. "So, welcome home?" Day stands, already moving. "I'll check it." Huyen surprises him by standing too. "No, we'll check it." Maya pops up. "I can help." Dee turns. "You can supervise." Maya salutes dramatically. "Yes, boss." Outside, the afternoon sun is bright, but the air has a cool edge. Day pulls out an old ladder from the side of the house. It creaks like it's judging him. Huyen holds the base steady. "Be careful," she says. Day looks down at her hands gripping the ladder, at the way she's not stepping back from the mess, not stepping back from him. "I will," he says. He climbs up, testing each rung. The roof has a patch where water has been slipping in, probably for a while. He crouches, examining it like a man trying to fix more than wood and metal. Huyen hands him tools from below, whatever they can find. Nails, a small hammer, a worn-out sheet of plastic, tape that might be older than Maya. It's not perfect, it's not professional, but it's effort, it's teamwork, it's them choosing to stay, even when things leak. Maya runs around picking up fallen branches and dragging them into little piles like she's cleaning the world one stick at a time. At one point, Huyen wipes sweat from her forehead and laughs again, this real, slightly exhausted laugh, and Day pauses, hearing it like music. "You're smiling," he says. Huyen blinks like she forgot she could. "I guess I am." Day nods once, like he's memorizing it. "I missed that." Huyen doesn't answer, but her eyes soften. As the sun starts lowering, the yard looks different, cleaner. Not perfect, but lighter. The roof doesn't drip anymore. The windows are open. The air moves through the house like it's finally allowed to breathe again. And then someone calls from the gate. "Hello? Anyone here?" Huyen turns sharply, instinctive tension returning. Dee steps down from the ladder, wiping his hands. Maya freezes mid-step. At the gate stands an older woman, one of the neighbors, holding a bag of something. Maybe fruit, maybe snacks. Her eyes scan them with cautious curiosity, then land on Dee. "Day," she says, surprised. "Is that you?" Day straightens. "Aunt Lan, Her face softens instantly, like she's seeing a boy and a man at the same time. I heard someone was here. I thought, well, I wasn't sure. She looks at Huyen next, then Maya. And who are these two? She asks gently. The question hangs there. Not rude, not suspicious, just real life. Huyen's fingers tighten around the rag she's holding. Dave's throat bobs like he's swallowing 1,000 emotions. Maya looks up at both of them, waiting. Because this is the moment, isn't it? The moment when you either hide or you claim. Dave takes one breath, opens his mouth to speak, and Maya suddenly steps forward, looking straight at the neighbor with brave, clear eyes. She reaches back, searching for Dee's hand. Dee's hand finds hers, and Maya opens her mouth, about to say the word that changes everything. Maya opens her mouth, about to say the word that changes everything. The neighbor's gaze flicks from Dee to Maya, then to Huyen, then back again. It's not judgment. It's just that natural curiosity people have when they stumble into a story mid-chapter. Maya doesn't flinch. She stands right there in the dusty yard with bits of leaves stuck to her shoes and sunlight warming her hair, and she says it. Simple, steady, like it's always been true. This is my dad. For a split second, the whole world stops. Dee's eyes widen, not in anger, not in fear, in shock, like someone just handed him something priceless and he doesn't trust his hands not to drop it. Dad, Maya repeats, louder now, clearer, as if she wants to make sure the word lands properly in the air. My dad. The neighbor's mouth opens in surprise, then closes again. She blinks, processing, and Huyen. Huyen turns her face away fast, but it's too late. The tears spill over anyway. Quiet at first, then heavier, because it isn't just a cute moment. It isn't just a child saying something sweet. It's the first time it happens in front of someone else. It's the first time Maya says it openly, without hesitation, without being corrected by the world, without being forced to soften it into something safer. For the first time, they are being called by their proper names. A real family. Dee's lips part like he wants to say something, anything, but no sound comes. His chest rises sharply, like he's trying to breathe through a wave. Then he drops to one knee right there in the yard, so he's eye level with Maya. Maya, he whispers. Maya looks confused for half a second. What? She asks, like she's worried she said something wrong. And that's what breaks him. Dee pulls her into his arms with a kind of urgency that surprises everyone, including him. It's not a careful hug. It's not polite. It's the hug of a man who almost lost everything and is being given a second chance. He holds her tight, burying his face in her hair, and you can see his shoulders shake once, like he's fighting tears he doesn't know how to show. No, he says, voice thick. You didn't say anything wrong. You said it right. Maya wraps her arms around his neck like she belongs there, like she's always belonged there. And Huyen presses her knuckles to her mouth to stop herself from sobbing out loud. Her eyes are red, her cheeks wet, her whole body trembling because she's watching the impossible become real. The neighbor, Aunt Lan, softens completely. Her expression turns from surprise into something almost tender. Oh, she says quietly, like she finally understands. So that's what this is. Day finally looks up, still holding Maya. His eyes meet Huyen's across the yard. There's a whole conversation in that look. This is happening. This is real. We made it here. Huyen wipes her face quickly, embarrassed for a second, but Dee's gaze doesn't judge her. It doesn't pity her. It just holds her, like a hand. Aunt Lan steps forward slowly, offering the bag she brought. I didn't come to interrupt, she says. I heard noise and thought maybe someone needed help. Day clears his throat. Thank you. We're fixing the place up. Aunt Lan nods, looking around at the opened windows, the cleared yard, the ladder, the tools. Then she looks at Huyen. You're welcome here, she says simply. Both of you. Huyen's eyes widen at that. She wasn't expecting acceptance, not this quickly, not this easily. She nods, unable to find words. Maya, of course, fills the silence. Auntie, she says brightly, we fixed the roof so it won't drip anymore. And we ate eggs and rice on the floor and it was fun. Aunt Lan chuckles. Eggs and rice on the floor, huh? That's how real homes start. Dee smiles faintly at that, like he's holding the sentence close. Aunt Lan lingers for a bit, asking small questions, offering small advice. Nothing intrusive, just neighborly warmth. Then, before she leaves, she looks at Dee again. Your father would have been happy to see you here, she says softly. That sentence hits like a stone dropped into still water. Day's jaw tightens for half a second. His eyes flick down. Then he nods. I hope so, he says. Aunt Lan leaves them with the bag, a wave, and a quiet kind of blessing. When the gate clicks shut, the yard is silent again, but it's a different silence now. Not lonely, not tense, just full. Day stands slowly, still holding Maya's hand. Huyen steps closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Are you okay? She asks him. Day looks down at Maya first, then back to Huyen. I don't know, he admits honestly, but I'm not scared the way I used to be. Huyen swallows. Because she said it? De nods. Because she meant it. Maya, overhearing, frowns like the adults are being dramatic again. Of course I meant it, she says. You're my dad. Day lets out a breath that sounds like a laugh and a sob at the same time. He crouches again and cups Maya's cheeks gently, as if he needs to make sure she's real. Thank you, he says, and his voice cracks on the words. Maya wrinkles her nose. For what? For giving me a name I didn't know I deserved, Day wants to say, but he doesn't put it that way. He just says, for choosing me. Maya shrugs like it's obvious. I already did. Huyen turns away again, wiping her face, but she's smiling through tears this time. She walks toward the doorway and looks back at them. Come inside, she says. We should unpack a little. Make the beds. Maya gasps. We have beds? Huyen laughs. We have mattresses. That counts. They go inside together. Huyen spreads a thin blanket over one mattress. De carries a small box of things from the car. Maya's books, a few clothes, a little stuffed animal that Maya insists has to sit in the best corner. Day finds an old photo frame on a shelf. The glass is cracked, but inside is a faded picture of a younger Day with his parents, standing right in front of this same house. He stares at it, thumb brushing the crack. Huyen notices. She walks closer, but doesn't interrupt. She just stands beside him, close enough that he can feel her presence, like a quiet promise. Maya climbs onto the mattress and starts bouncing. This is the best house ever, she declares. Huyen puts her hands on her hips. No bouncing until we're sure the floor can survive you. Maya giggles and flops dramatically onto her back. I'm tired, she announces. Not tired at all. Dee sets the photo frame down carefully. Then he walks over and sits at the edge of the mattress. Huyen stands in the doorway for a moment watching them. Day and Maya side by side, A picture she never let herself imagine too clearly because she was afraid hoping would hurt more. But it's right there. Then Day's phone buzzes. The sound is small, but the way it slices through the room is sharp. Day glances at the screen, and something shifts in his face. Not panic, not shock. Something like recognition. Huyen's smile fades slightly. She watches him carefully, her body going still. Maya sits up. "Who is it?" she asks. Day doesn't answer right away. He stands, walking a few steps away so Maya won't hear every word. He taps the screen. "Hello?" he says. There's a pause. His eyes narrow as he listens. The color in his face changes just a little. Huyen's heart starts beating faster, but she forces herself to stay quiet. She won't let fear take over the room again. Not today. Day speaks again, calm but serious. "When?" Another pause. "Okay," he says. "I understand. I'll be there." He ends the call and stands still for a moment, staring at the wall like the past just knocked on the door. Huyen finally steps forward. "Day," she says carefully. "What is it?" Day turns to look at her. His face is controlled, but his eyes are heavy. "It's something from before," he says. "Someone wants to meet. About the past." Huyen's stomach drops. She feels the old instinct rise. Run. Protect Maya. Hide. But then she looks at Dee more closely. He isn't spiraling. He isn't collapsing. He's steady. And that steadiness does something to her. Huyen takes one breath, then another. She walks toward him. "What kind of meeting?" she asks. Dee hesitates, choosing his words. "A call. About a situation that never really ended. I thought it was buried, but it's not." Maya slides off the mattress and walks over, sensing the mood shift. She looks up at them, serious now. "Is it bad?" she asks softly. Dee kneels again, eye level with her, and answers honestly. "It might be hard," he says, "but it's not something we're going to face alone." Maya studies his face like she's deciding whether to believe him. Then she reaches out and grabs his hand. "Okay," she says, nodding. "Then we go together." Day's eyes flick to Huyen. Huyen feels her chest tighten. She steps closer and places her hand over theirs. Her voice shakes a little, but it doesn't break. "Together," she repeats. And in that tiny circle of hands, Dee's rough from work, Huyen's still damp from cleaning, Maya's small and warm, there's a promise stronger than any speech. Not that nothing bad will happen, but that this time they won't let fear separate them. Dee exhales slowly, like he's been holding his breath for years. "All right," he says, "we'll face it. All of it." Maya squeezes their hands firm, because we're a family. Huyen closes her eyes for a second and a tear slips out again. Not from pain this time, but from relief. The house around them is still imperfect. The roof patch might not last forever. The yard will grow wild again if they stop caring. The past is still out there, waiting. But for the first time, their peace isn't fragile, it's chosen. The episode ends on that image. 3 hands held tight, not running, not hiding, not breaking apart. Just standing in the middle of an ordinary room in an unpretentious old house with a simple kind of courage that says, "This time, we do it together." After the chaos of episode 6, Day chooses healing instead of hiding. He brings Huyen and Maya to an old family house tied to painful memories, determined to build a nest in the simplest, warmest way. Together, they cook a humble meal, clean the dusty rooms, fix a leaking roof, and restore the yard. Small repairs that feel like stitching their lives back together. When a neighbor arrives and asks who they are, the moment turns magical. Maya openly calls Dad for the first time, without hesitation. Day is stunned, hugs her tightly, and Huyen breaks down in tears, overwhelmed by the reality of being a true family. Just as peace settles in, a call from Dee's past demands a meeting. This time, they hold hands and promise to face it together.